Mohan's kindly sorting out the streaming for us. Got it. Okay, so we'll start with Mangalacharan prayers, invoke auspiciousness and ask for help. Hare Krishna. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Siddhantotpal Saranityarasikam Hangsam Vilasatmakam Audaryakya Siddham Sekapathanam Vishramba Bhakti Pradam Yachna Yukti Vichakshanam Dvakavidu Vaishishta Shaktya Sada Vandeham Tripurari Namakayatim Shri Bhakti Vedantinam Namam Vishnu Paraya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Swami Shri Bhaktivedanta Prabhupadaya Te Namaha Gurvagyam Shirasi Dritva Shaktavesha Swarupine Hare Krishna Timantrena Paschatya Prachatarine Vishvacharya Praparyaya Divya Karunya Murtaye Shri Bhagavata Madhurya Gita Jnana Pradayine Gaura Shri Rupa Siddhanta Saraswati Nishevine Radha Krishna Padam Bhoja Bringaya Gurave Namaha Devam Divyatanam Suchanda Vadanam Valarka Chelanchitam Sandrananda Purang Sareka Varanam Bhakidhim Shri Siddhanta Nidhim Subhakti Lasitam Sarasvatanam Varam Vande Tang Shupadham Adeka Sharanam Yashishwaram Shri Dharam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ajanulambita pujo kanakavadato sankirtanaika pitaro kamalaya taksho vishvambharo dvijavaro yugadharma palo vande jagat priyakaro karunavataro. Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sahodito Gododaye Pushpavanto Chitro Shando Tamonito Vandeham Shri Ramakrishna Apaya Charana Sukho Sukhado Paramananda Sundaro Subala Priyo He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Gauriya Vaishnav Guru Parampara Ki Jai, Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. Gauranga. Welcome. So, here we are again. My time has come round again. But yeah, thank you for being here. So, thinking about today's class, I thought I decided to think of a bhajan again, because it's always nice to explain bhajans, and one that I'm a bit familiar with. I've heard it lots and I've always really liked to hear it, although I haven't sung it very much, is this song called Suddha Bhakata by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. There is a particularly well-known version of the bhajan sung by Vishnujan Swami, which some of you might be familiar with. So today when we sing the song, we'll try to sing it in that same melody. Excuse me. I've also just realised that I forgot to bring cartels, so I'll just quickly grab cartels. I'm sorry, I'll just be one sec. So sorry about that. Very unprofessional. I've got cartels. I thought I was going to be downstairs giving class today, but I'm actually upstairs, so I had to bring my books and everything. So yeah, so as we were saying, so yes, the song Suddha Bhakata, yeah, you might be familiar with the version of Vishnujan Swami, and I don't know, I haven't really sort of looked into this song very much in the past, so it was kind of new for me to explore it a bit. And as I started researching into it, I realised that it's part of a much bigger picture in terms of our bhakti philosophy. So we're going to go into what that means when we start discussing it. But I know in the past when I've done talks and explained a bhajan, we've usually sung the bhajan at the end. But I thought today perhaps we'll sing it first and then talk a bit more about it. So it's in Bengali, and before I start singing it, I was going to apologise in case I don't pronounce things correctly. So and we've got our dear Shraddha Devi on the call who does know Bengali, and so I do apologise if I say certain things wrong. Sometimes it's a bit difficult. I mean, because sometimes the A sound is more of a O, and as far as I understand, they don't usually say S in Bengali. It's always a sh. So let's see. But so yes, we'll sing the song first, and then we'll talk a bit about it. So what I'll do is I'll share the screen. Got my cartels. Yeah, sorry, Sharad has just asked in the chat, is it part of Sharanagati? And it is in that book, and that's, yeah, we're going to talk about that. So yeah, it's quite exciting. Very nice topic to speak about today. So let me see if I can share the screen. I think Madam Mohan has to make me the host again. Hare Krishna Prabhu. So I need to ask, I'm sorry about this, I need to ask Madan Mohan to make me the host, otherwise I can't share the screen for the words for the song. To do that. Sorry, 1 second. I can't share the screen. Sorry again. Luckily, he's just downstairs, so I had to ask him. But he's working, you see, so it's a bit difficult. Okay, I'm now the host again. So let's see if we can share the screen. Let's do a portion of screen. Share. So just try to, I guess, oops, what have I done? Let's try and fit as much of it in as we can, but we may have to move it up, I suppose, as we're singing. It's 8 verses, so yeah, I'll just move the screen. But unfortunately, I'll have to keep you muted, which is unfortunate, but only because of the internet. Then in the response, it will come in at different times. But please do sing the response, and I'll try to do both the call and response myself, but I might get a bit out of breath. But we'll see if we can do it. But yeah, so this is a lovely song of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura. So we'll sing it once through, and then we'll just read the translation through in English, and then we'll go into exploring it a bit more in its in the context of Sharanagati and where the song appears. So Srila Satchitanandamoy Thakur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Shri Shuddha Bhakata ki jai. Shuddha Bhakata Charanarenu Bhajana Anukula. Shuddha Bhakata Charanarenu Bhajana Anukula. Bhakata Seva Paramasiddhi. Bhakata Seva Paramasiddhi. Prema Latikara Mula. Prema Latikara Mula. Madhavati Bhakti Janani Yetane Palana Kori. Madhavati Bhakti Janani Yetane Palana Kori. Krishna Boshati Boshati Boli. Krishna Boshati Boshati Boli. Parama Adare Bori. Parama Adare Bori. Gauramara Jesabastane Koralo Brahmana Range. Gauramara Jesabastane Koralo Brahmana Range. Se sabastana heriboami. Se sabastana heriboami. Pranahi Bhakata Sange. Pranahi Bhakata Sange. Mridanga Padya Shunite Mana. Abasara Sadayache. Mridanga Padya Shunite Mana. Abasara Sadayache. Gaura Bhita Kirtana Shuni. Gaura Bhita Kirtana Shuni. Anande Hridoya Nache. Anande Hridoya Nache. Yugala Murti Deki Amora. Parama Ananda Hoya. Yugala Murti Deki Amora. Parama Ananda Hoya. Prasada Seva Korite Hoya. Prasada Seva Korite Hoya. Shakala Prapancha Jaya. Sakala Prapancha Jaya. Yedina Grihe Bhajana Deki. Grihete Goloka Bhaya. Yedina Grihe Bhajana Deki. Grihete Goloka Bhaya. Charana Sidhu Deki Aganga. Charana Sidhu Deki Aganga. Sukana Sasima Paya. Sukha Sasima Paya. Tulasi Teki Juraya Prana. Madhava Tosha Nijani. Tulasi Teki Juraya Prana. Madhava Tosha Nijani. Gaura Priya Shaka Sevane, Gaura Priya Shaka Sevane, Jivana Sarthakamani, Jivana Sarthakamani, Bhaktivinoda Krishna Bhajane, Anakula Payaya, Bhaktivinoda Krishna Bhajane, Anakula Payaya, Pratidibase Paramasuke, Pratidibase Paramasuke, Svikara Koroyeta, Svikara Koroyeta. Shuddha Bhakata Charana Renu Parama Bhajana Anukula Shuddha Bhakata Charana Renu Bhajana Anukula Bhakata Seva Paramasiti Bhakata Seva Paramasiti Prema Lati Karamula, Prema Lati Karamula. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Sachidananda Murti Thakura Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Jai. Thank you. Hoping you joined in at home. So let's get into it. So what have we got? So yes, it's a very beautiful song. Oh, let's read the, we'll just read the English translation, and then when we do go through the verses, we will go through them one by one, but just in the interest of sort of getting the gist of the song, we'll just read through this. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura sings, "The dust of the lotus feet of pure devotees, enthusiastic devotional service, and service to the pure devotees of the highest order are the roots of the creeper of devotion." I'll read it. There's another translation here as well. I'll save that for when we go through the verses. I'll just read it as it is here, sorry. And then, because some of the translations are slightly different, but we'll read through how it is here. This is on the Krishna Kirtan songs. The holy days, like Ekadashi and Janmashtami, are the mother of devotion for those devotees who respect them. Let the holy places of Krishna's pastimes be my places of worship and bless me. May I always visit all the holy places associated with the Leela of Lord Chaitanya and his devotees. When I hear the sound of the mridanga, in my heart, I always desire to join in kirtan. And when I hear the bona fide songs describing Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, my heart dances in ecstasy. Whenever I see the transcendental Sri Vigrahas of Sri Radha and Krishna, I am in bliss. For by taking their lordships prasad, we can conquer over the material elements. One day, while performing devotional practices, I saw my house transformed into Goloka Vrindavan. When I take the Charanamrit of the deity, I see the holy Ganges waters that come from the feet of Lord Vishnu, and my bliss knows no bounds. By seeing the Tulsi tree, my heart feels joy, and Lord Madhava is also satisfied. When I eat the prasad favoured by Lord Chaitanya, it is a new life's experience. And then there's a little footnote, Lord Chaitanya was very fond of a green vegetable preparation called shak. And then verse 8, Bhaktivinoda concludes by saying, whosoever attains the stage of enthusiasm for these devotional practices will be supremely blissful wherever he may be. So it's a really nice song. As I say, I hadn't read the translation from this website before. So what I'd been working from, I forgot. We have the song in a few different books, but I was reading the translation in this Sharanagati book, which is slightly different, and also it's also slightly different in the Sri Gaudiya Gita Gucha songbook. So maybe we can speak a little bit about those differences. I'll find the song here. So yeah, as Shraddha Devi asked in the beginning, is it in Sharanagati? And it is. This song features in Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's book of songs called Sharanagati, which was published in 1893. And excuse me. There is the word itself, Sharanagati. It's such a nice sounding word. Yeah, I've always thought it sounded so nice. And actually, many years ago, probably about I think it was about 9 years ago, and Madan Mohan was living in India for a year. I asked him if he could bring me back this book, Sharanagati by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, because I'd heard of it, and I always just really liked the sound of that word. And actually, there's another funny little story about it that we heard recently from Kripa Moya Prabhu, who's one of our Guru Maharaj's godbrothers. He told us that his daughter Janavi had recently organised her first retreat. I think it was on an island somewhere off the coast of America, maybe Hawaii, I'm not sure. But the retreat itself was called Sharanagati Retreat. And one girl came to the retreat who had no experience in bhakti or practicing. But she had a tattoo on her arm that said Sharanagati. And so when she saw this retreat was called Sharanagati, she went, but when she got the tattoo, she didn't know what it meant. She just really liked the sound of the word. And yeah, I can relate to that somewhat, because it does sound like such a lovely word itself. And the meaning is even more wonderful. So it's translated in English as surrender, Sharanagati, surrender. But you can see it in it's composed of like two parts, Sharana or Sharanam, which means Sharanam often means like shelter or refuge or protection, Sharanam, and Agati, meaning to go to or to come to. Often we hear the word gati, means like the goal or something that we're going towards. So Sharanagati is composed of to go to that shelter, to go to that refuge and that protection. So it has a very lovely meaning. So surrender. Sharanagati itself, the actual our our outward surrender. Our Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhaktivedanta Tripurari Swami, he often says that Sharanagati is like the outward reflection of one's faith, one's Shraddha. Or in other words, that one's Shraddha can be seen in one's Sharanagati, in like practically speaking, like how one is surrendered. Because someone could know so many things about the philosophy, and they could explain things very well and seem like very learned in everything, and they could seem like they have faith, but really it's seen in how one is actually practically applying these principles of surrender. So what I noticed when I started to explore this song and actually look through this book of Sharanagati, is that that seems to be a big theme of it, is actually like practically applying the philosophy. So we're actually like living it, living, breathing this life of bhakti, this life of devotion to the Lord. I think we can take a lot of inspiration from how Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, from what he's singing about how to practice. So in terms of the actual notion of Sharanagati itself, or surrender, it's no small topic. It's a big topic. And it comes up in the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita in Madhya Lila, chapter 22, when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's speaking to Sanatana Goswami. And I do have the book here. I brought it with me. Actually, I have this verse. The verse where the 6 limbs of Sharanagati are described is verse 100 in the 22nd chapter of Madhya Lila. I actually have that on my bedroom wall, just there. I wrote it out a while ago. Try to learn, try to read it every day, try to remember these principles. But I'll read to you where the Lord speaks it. So the verse previous to that, verse 99, Mahaprabhu says to Sanatana Goswami, Sharanagatera akinchanera eka ilakshana daramatye praveshai atma samarpana. There are 2 kinds of devotees, those satiated and free from all material desires, and those who are fully surrendered to the lotus feet of the Lord. Their qualities are one and the same. But those who are fully surrendered to Krishna's lotus feet are qualified with another transcendental quality, Atma Samarpan, full surrender without reservation. So then this full surrender without reservation, this is the following verse, then Mahaprabhu speaks. Anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam rakshishyati vishvaso goptritve varanam tata atmaneka karpanye shadvitha sharanagatihi. The 6 divisions of surrender are the acceptance of those things favorable to devotional service, the rejection of unfavorable things, the conviction that Krishna will give protection, the acceptance of the Lord as one's guardian or master, full self-surrender and humility. And just to expound on that a little bit more, I'll just read a bit of Srila Prabhupada's purport. One who is fully surrendered is qualified with the 6 following characteristics. 1, the devotee has to accept everything that is favorable for the rendering of transcendental loving service to the Lord. 2, he must reject everything unfavorable to the Lord's service. This is also called renunciation. 3, a devotee must be firmly convinced that Krishna will give him protection. No one else can actually give protection, and being firmly convinced of this is called faith. This kind of faith is different from the faith of an impersonalist who wants to merge into the Brahman effulgence in order to benefit by cessation of repeated birth and death. A devotee wants to remain always in the Lord's service. In this way, Krishna is merciful to his devotee and gives him all protection from the dangers found on the path of devotional service. 4, the devotee should accept Krishna as his supreme maintainer and master. He should not think that he is being protected by a demigod. He should depend only on Krishna, considering him the only protector. The devotee must be firmly convinced that within the 3 worlds he has no protector or maintainer other than Krishna. 5, self-surrender means remembering that one's activities and desires are not independent. The devotee is completely dependent on Krishna, and he acts and thinks as Krishna desires. The devotee is, and 6, the devotee is meek and humble. So, yeah, that's it. That's those 6 principles which will apply to the book Sharanagati. One other thing I was going to mention, which also ties in with Bhaktivinoda Thakura's book, is that further along in this chapter 22, I haven't got up to here myself in my reading for Chaitanya Charitamrita. I'm only up to the 9th. I'm up to the 9th chapter at the moment of my Dilila, so I haven't got this far. So I'm not exactly sure what's happening in the bigger picture. But I read a little bit more sort of before and after these verses, and the Lord goes on a little bit later in the chapter. From verse, which verse is it where he begins? Verse 115. Then Lord Chaitanya begins to say to Sanatan, what are the 64 angas or practices of bhakti, 64 practices of devotional service, and Mahaprabhu goes through all of those. Again, because it sort of also ties in with that practical application of actually the things that we can do, in on this path. We're never short of anything to do, there's always there's just so much to be engaged in, so many ways that we can practice. So as I say, these 64 angas, which I'm sure as you know are also outlined in much more depth in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. But in verse 128, then Lord Chaitanya speaks of the last 5 angas or limbs of bhakti, and it's said that these 5 are the best, and we often hear that these 5 are essential. So I was just going to share those with you, which again, I'm sure you've probably heard these before, but it's nice to remember, because like I say, we'll see how these also really apply in Bhaktivinoda Thakura's songs as well, these angas of bhakti. So in verse 128, Mahaprabhu says, Sadhu Sangha Nama Kirtan Bhagavata Shravan Mathura Vasa Shri Mutira Shraddhaya Sevana, that one should associate with devotees, chant the holy name of the Lord, hear Srimad Bhagavatam, reside at Mathura, and worship the deity with faith and veneration. And then Mahaprabhu then goes on to say in the following verse that these 5 limbs of devotional service are the best of all. Even a slight performance of these 5 awakens love for Krishna. So yeah, it's quite astounding. Should I just read a little bit of the purport? Because Bhaktivinoda Thakur is mentioned here. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur points out that there are 35 items up to the point of observing special vows in the month of Kartik. Okay, so Prabhupada is just saying about the adding up to till we get to 64 angas. And these 5 items mentioned above, in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Srila Rupa Goswami states, Anganam Panchakasyasya Purva Vilikitasya cha Nikila Shraishta Bodhaya Punarapyatras Shangsanam. The glorification of these 5 items, association with devotees, chanting the holy name, and so on, is to make known the complete superiority of these 5 practices of devotional service. So yeah, so we can see that these 5 are also very important, and we'll see also how they apply in the song as well. So yeah, back to the book, back to the Sharanagati itself. So we learned, so there are 6 limbs of Sharanagati, and actually this Sharanagati book, there are songs. It's in 6 sections basically. It's split into sections of songs that correspond with each limb of Sharanagati. And there's a few other little sections as well. There's a few sections at the end of sort of other prayers like hankering for devotional service, and a glorification of the holy name, which is just wonderful. And then and at the very beginning of the book, there's an introductory song as well, which I'm sure you all know very well, because it's Agnidev Prabhu sings it wonderfully. This Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Jive Doya Ore Swaparshada Swiyadham Sahavatare. It's a wonderful song about how Lord Chaitanya came here with such mercy, and that he taught these principles of surrender. So that's the introductory song. And then, as I say, the main bulk of the book is the 6 sections of the 6 limbs of Sharanagati, with songs appropriate to each section, which is just wonderful. So they're not, the sections themselves, I wrote them out because they're not in the order that Mahaprabhu speaks them. In the book, they're not. In the book, the first section, the Bhaktivinoda Thakur, it corresponds more, although not exactly, but it corresponds more with the order that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur sings about them in that introductory song. So the first section of songs is titled Dainya, or humility. So songs applicable to that. And then the second section is Atmani Vedana, or surrendering oneself. Section 3 is Goptritve Varana, or accepting Krishna as one's maintainer. Section 4 is Avashya Rakshibe Krishna Vishvasa Palana, to maintain faith that Krishna will give all protection. Section 5, the songs in there are Bhakti Pratikula Bhava Varjanangikara, which is rejecting unfavorable things. And section 6 is Bhakti Anukula Matra Karyera Svikar, or accepting the things favorable to devotional service. So that's the 6 sections. And then the 7th section is Bhajan Lalasa, hankering for transcendental service. And then there's the 8th section is Vigyapti, which is a humble appeal. And then the 9th, the last song in the book, is Sri Nam Mahatmya, the glories of the holy name. So yeah, as I was looking through it more, as I say, preparing for this talk, I felt very inspired by it. And actually I thought it might be a nice idea, because this particular song, this Suddha Bhakata that we're talking about today, that is in section 6 of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's book, which corresponds with the section on accepting all those things that are favorable for the devotional service. So that's kind of what we're talking about today when we go through the song. But yes, I thought it might be nice in future that maybe we could explore the different limbs of Sharanagati and talk about some of the songs that Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written to correspond with the other ones as well. So just an idea. But yes, today we are talking about what is favorable, and actually about how to, like, practically applying those things into our lives so that we are actually like really living the philosophy, not just theoretical. So let's see, before we go through the verses, we will go through the verses in just a sec, but one thing I wanted to share with you is just, so as I say, this is Shuddha Bhakata is found in the 6th section, and it's Song 3. That's how it's just titled, Song 3. But I would just read the translation of the previous song, which comes in this book, Song 2, because again, going through these principles of surrender, and also these these 5 essential limbs of bhakti, and practicing, there's a lot in here, and also I felt that it's very relatable, that it's something that that we can also apply in our own lives. I'll read the translation and see what you think. Obviously we're not exactly in Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's situation, where, like, he was actually living in Godruma Dweep at that time, on the bank of the Ganges. So some things perhaps we can't quite relate to, but there were some things that we can. So Song 2, Bhaktivinoda Thakur sings, I live in the favourable atmosphere of Godruma Dham, which is non-different from Nandagram of Brajamandal. Within Godruma, there is a beautiful cottage known as Surabhi Kunj, situated by the side of the Ganges. That is where I reside. So he's got the one of those 5 limbs was residing in a holy place, right? He was fortunate to. But this can also mean, like, even if we're not physically in a holy place, we can still make our homes like that, and our consciousness like that. Then he says, I dress in the same way that the dear devotees of Gaura dress themselves. I will decorate my body in the manner of a Vaishnava by putting on tilak and tulsi. I will prepare a large and beautiful grove by planting various trees like champak, bakula, kadamba, and tamal. I will plant jasmine and other flowers all around the grove. In this way, I will make the entire place shaded from the sunlight. Within the compound, I will plant rows of various kinds of flowers and bushes. I will place Tulsi Maharani on a raised platform by the side of this kunj. Then I will bring various paraphernalia for kirtan and place them here and there. I will then sit down and chant the holy name of the Lord in the association of Vaishnavas. All glories to Godruma, all glories to the abode of Gauranga. All glories to the beautiful grove, the thatched roof, and the banks of the river Ganges. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur considers all of these items as favourable for devotional service. That's very nice. I just thought it was nice when I read it that we can sort of we can apply it in our own lives. Like we may have, some of us may have gardens, and we can plant things in the gardens that would be pleasing to the Lord, and kirtan there, and have Tulsi Devi. So, but we'll get on to the we'll go through the verses themselves. I'll just put this back up to the top, and we made some notes. I'm not the most organized person, but so we've got so. And I'll get this translation as well, like I said, because some of them are a bit different. Because actually, the translation we just read there mentioned a few items, didn't it, in the first line? The dust of the lotus feet of pure devotees, enthusiastic devotional service, and service to the pure devotees. But in the translation in the book, we have Shuddha Bhakata Charana Renu. So Charana Renu literally means the dust from the lotus feet of the Shuddha Bhakata, the pure devotees. bhajana anukula, that it's favorable. This is most favorable for devotional service. So in this book, it's translated, serving the dust from the lotus feet of pure devotees is favorable for advancement in devotional service. Serving the devotees is the highest perfection, and it is the root of the creeper of love of God. So when I feel like in this first verse, immediately Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is just starting off with like the topmost essential truth. It's kind of it's not really a secret, it's kind of an open secret, if you like, but it's really like this is the like the most important thing for devotional service, you know. The dust from the lotus feet of the pure devotees is most favorable for bhajan. We've heard this, and we've read this in the scriptures. There is much evidence for this. One example is again in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and again it's a part that I haven't read in advance. I'm not so familiar with it, but I just read it recently. And there was one devotee who was his name was Kalidas. Now, this is in the Antya Lila, chapter 16, and this devotee called Kalidas, he was I think it said that he was an uncle of Raghunath Das Goswami. And this Kalidas, he seems like such a wonderful devotee. He always wanted to get the dust of the feet of the devotees, and he always wanted to take their remnants. And it's said that he had the prasad remnants of as many devotees as there were in Bengal. He would always try to get their remnants, and even when he couldn't, like if they didn't give him any, he would hide somewhere out the way, and then when they'd gone and finished eating and like threw their plates or whatever, then like Kalidas would come out from hiding, and he would like find where they'd thrown the plates, and he would try to get something that they left there, because he knew the power of. And similarly, he was trying to get their foot dust. There's one story told in this chapter about him. I've forgotten the name of the other devotee. I just have to find what his name was. Jadu Thakur. So there was one devotee called Jadu Thakur, and Kalidas really wanted the dust from his lotus feet, but Jadu Thakur said, no, of course, he wouldn't. He said, I'm from a lower caste than you. I really shouldn't, you shouldn't even ask that. That's terrible. And then Kalidas, he said to him that he quoted the Shastra, and he said to him that actually, anyone who always keeps the Lord's holy name on his tongue is greater than an initiated Brahmin, even though he might be born in a family of dog eaters. And he's got, so he was essentially saying to Jadu Thakur that he is qualified, but Jadu Thakur, being a humble devotee, he said he said that I'm not genuinely advanced in devotion to Krishna, and and he said he doesn't have any devotion. So then Kalidas just offered obeisances, and then he asked him if he could leave. So he left, but then the saint Jadu Thakur followed him as he left. And then he bid him farewell. But then after that, it's just funny, because then after that, Kalidas, he went to in the footprints where Jadu Thakur had been walking after he'd gone. He went to those footprints, and and he smeared the dust from those footprints all over his body. So as I say, and he took the remnants, the prasad remnants of many devotees, and then eventually, he did get to meet Mahaprabhu, and because Kalidas had such faith in the taking the remnants from the devotees, their foot dust and the prasad that they'd eaten, then it said that because of that, he got great mercy from Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya would never allow anyone to drink the water that washed his feet, but he allowed Kalidas a few palmfuls, and also he gave him his prasad. Where's that verse? So the remnants of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's food were given to Kalidas by Govinda. And then it said in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in this 16th chapter of Antya Lila, Krishnara Uchishta Hoya Mahaprasada Nama Bhakta Shesha Mahaprasada Khyana. The remnants of food offered to Lord Krishna are called Mahaprasadam. After this same Mahaprasadam has been taken by a devotee, the remnants are elevated to Mahaprasadam. Bhakta Pada Dhuli Ara Bhakta Pada Jala Bhakta Bhukta Avashesha Tina Mahabala. The dust of the feet of a devotee, the water that has washed the feet of a devotee, and the remnants of food left by a devotee are three very powerful substances. Eitina seva hoite Krishna prema hoya, puna puna sarva shastre pukariya koya. By rendering service to these three, one attains the supreme goal of ecstatic love for Krishna. In all the revealed scriptures, this is loudly declared again and again. The dust of the feet of a devotee, the water that has washed the feet of a devotee, and the remnants of food left by a devotee are three very powerful substances. So that's from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And then there is also a very nice verse in the Bhagavatam in the 5th, when Jada Bharat is instructing Maharaj Rahugan. So I will share that verse with you. So that's Canto 5, Chapter 12, and verse 12 as well. So Jada Bharat, he said, "My dear King Rahugan, unless one has the opportunity to smear his entire body with the dust of the lotus feet of great devotees, one cannot realize the absolute truth. One cannot realize the absolute truth simply by observing celibacy, brahmacharya, strictly following the rules and regulations of householder life, leaving home as a vanaprastha, accepting sannyas, or undergoing severe penances in winter by keeping oneself submerged in water, or surrounding oneself in summer by fire and the scorching heat of the sun. There are many other processes to understand the absolute truth, but the absolute truth is only revealed to one who has attained the mercy of a great devotee." So it's very important. That's just incredible to say that unless one has the opportunity to put the dust of the lotus feet of a great devotee all over their body, then one cannot realize the absolute truth. But when I read this verse, like I say, in preparation for this class, it reminded me very much, it seems to echo what Krishna himself says as well. Recently, in my reading of the Bhagavatam, I'm up to still reading the Bhagavatam after a long time. I'm spending pretty nearly 20 years reading the Bhagavatam and I still haven't finished. But I'm now up to, I think, chapter 82. But recently, chapters 80 and 81 of the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam are the pastimes of Sudama Brahman. When Sudama Brahman goes to visit Krishna in his palace, on the request of his wife, because they were really literally starving. They had nothing and they were so poor. And Sudama and Krishna had been friends since they were young. So the wife, only out of concern for her husband, she wanted him to ask Krishna if he could, help them out. So he did. But one of the wonderful things about, there's so many wonderful things in this pastime of Suddha Brahman. I just love it. I think there's so many wonderful lessons. But one part that particularly stood out, I hope I saved it. I probably I didn't mark the place, but it's in chapter 80. It's when Sudama goes to see Krishna, and Krishna's so happy to see Suddha Brahman. He's so happy when he sees him that it said that when Krishna embraced Suddha Brahman, he felt such intense ecstasy at seeing him again, that Krishna was crying tears of love as he embraced Sudama, because he was so happy to see him. But and then when they started to sit down, when they sat down together on the bed, and Krishna took Sudama's hands, and he started to say to him, oh, here we are. Do you remember, when we lived in Gurukul together in the house of our spiritual master, and then Krishna starts to glorify the Guru, the spiritual master, and he explains. So I'll just read. There's a few verses here. I'll just share them with you, because, as I say, I feel like it's very much the same mood as what Jadabara has just spoken. So Krishna says to Sudama, my dear friend, he who gives a person his physical birth is his first spiritual master, and he who initiates him as a twice-born Brahmana and engages him in religious duties is indeed more directly his spiritual master. But the person who bestows transcendental knowledge upon the members of all the spiritual orders of society is one's ultimate spiritual master. Indeed, he is as good as my own self. Certainly, O Brahman, of all the followers of the Varnashram system, those who take advantage of the words I speak in my form as the spiritual master, and thus easily cross over the ocean of material existence, best understand their own true welfare. And then it was this verse particularly. This is Canto 10, chapter 80, verse 34. Krishna says, Naham ija prajatibhyam tapaso pasamenava tushyayam sarvabhutatma guru shushrushaya yatha. I, the soul of all beings, am not as satisfied by ritual worship, Brahminical initiation, penances, or self-discipline, as I am by faithful service rendered to one's spiritual master. So, it's just amazing, really. Like, that's, Krishna's saying that of all those other things, nothing satisfies him as much as someone, serving their spiritual master and just trying to serve them. And it's very sweet, because then I won't go too much into the past in the interest of time. I'm seeing it's already nearly been nearly an hour, but we're only on the first verse. But anyway, in this part, it's just wonderful, because then Krishna himself, just shows the ideal example, because then he goes on to speak to Sudama about, do you remember that time when our guru sent us to go and get some firewood in the forest, and then it got dark, and then the storm came, and they were lost in the forest, and they were so distressed. They were just young boys, Krishna and Sudama, and there was like wind and rain, and it was dark, and they didn't know which way to go, and all they did, they just held hands all night, and they just wandered here and there, and they were very distressed, and they didn't know what to do. And then the next morning, Sandipani Muni sent out his disciples to find them, and he went out as well to find them. And when he did find Krishna and Sudama, he felt like so pleased with them that they would really do anything for their guru, and he blessed them greatly. But I just think it's incredible to think that Krishna himself is the example. He showed that as an example that, as a young boy went through such a distressful time. You can imagine if it was any of us, me or you, or I know, speaking personally, if I was in a forest at night in the middle of a storm, and it would be very scary. But Krishna went through that to show how important it is to have devotion to the Guru, to these Shuddha Bhaktas. So, but yes, I've just realised the time, so we'll try to move on a bit. But yeah, anyway, I guess the point is that, Bhaktivinoda Thakura there he's really starting off with the essential topmost knowledge there, that what is really essential for our spiritual advancement is getting the dust of the lotus feet of the devotees. Sorry, I've just seen there's a message in the chat. I'll come back to that message in the chat, because we'll just go through the verses. I'll try not to say too much about them now, because I don't want to go on too long. But so I guess, like, we can see from those examples in Chaitanya Charitamrita and the Bhagavatam, that really nothing satisfies Krishna like serving his pure devotee. Like, that really makes him, he says that himself. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura is saying here that prema latikara mula. Mula means like the root, and latikara is the creeper of prema. The root of it is, service to these great devotees. So very wonderful. And then the second verse, I carefully observe Madhava's holy days, such as Ekadashi and Janmashtami, for they are the mother of devotion. Knowing that Krishna dwells in these holy days, with great regard, I also accept them as my residence. So one word that I thought that really stood out here in terms of practically applying is that Bhaktivinoda says, where was the verse? Carefully, yatane palana kori, that I follow carefully. He says, he carefully tries to observe these holy days. So it's really in an attentive way. And he says that these holy days are the mother of devotion. So I was sort of trying to think about what does that mean? Like, what is a mother? Takes care of us. You can say, the mother gives birth. The mother of devotion, that the mother is nourishing, and so helping. By following these days, we're being nourished by following these days. And then some translations say, I faithfully accept as my residence the place where Krishna lived. So again, that's kind of going with one of the 5 main angas of bhakti there, that residing in the holy place. Verse 3, Gaura Amara. Amara means my Gaur. So he's singing about the places where my Gaura went. Sabastani, the places where he went. Koralo Brahmana Rangi, that Mahaprabhu was traveling with great joy. He traveled happily. Sorry, I have to get the translation. So he's in, and then he said, so the places where he went, and then Se Sabastana Heribo Army, I will go there. Pranai Bhakata Sangha, in the association of pure devotees, I will go to these places. This is in the company of pure devotees. I will go and see all these places my worshipable Lord Gauranga had previously visited in his ecstatic mood. So we really get a sense of that when we read Chaitanya Charitamrita. That at the moment, the chapter that I'm on is the 9th chapter of Madhya Lila, where Lord Chaitanya travels in South India, and it does really make you want to go to those places. We really get the impression of the sweetness of the Lord when we read his pastimes, as I say, either in Chaitanya Charitamrita or Srimad Bhagavatam. I find that when we're reading those pastimes, we really I feel very blessed, because I feel that we get to be there, you know. Somehow you feel like when you're hearing Krishna described in the Bible, the way he is, like I mentioned about the way he is with Suddha Brahman, and how he was so happy, he was crying. And when you read these things, you feel as if you're there, you know, that you're getting to experience it just a little bit, somewhat. And it, you know, it's Bhaktivinoda Thakur was saying that he wants to go to places where Mahaprabhu went, and but with, you know, with the pure devotees, because, you know, we have the book Bhagavat, but we also have the person Bhagavat. So what Bhaktivinoda Thakur was describing here about going to these places where Mahaprabhu went in the company of pure devotees, I mean, it's just like the perfect situation, really, isn't it? You know, to hear from the great devotees at these places. I mean, can't even imagine the impressions that we could get, you know, from that. So then what do we got? Verse 4. Mridanga badya shunitema abasara sadayache. So sweet. So the sound of the mridanga. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says, my mind always looks for an opportunity to hear the sweet sound of the mridanga. When I hear the glorification of the Lord as inaugurated by Gauranga, my heart dances in ecstasy. I was going to share with you, some of you may know, I'm not much of a mridanga player myself. I can only play very basically, but there is a wonderful pranam that to recite before playing mridanga. Sorry, I did have it ready to read to you on my phone, but really, I mean, I guess I don't need to read it. It's just basically describing the sweetness of the mridanga. You know, there's nothing, there's no other instrument that has the same sweetness of mridanga. But I don't know where I saved it. Oh, I'm sorry. Anyway, we'll move on because we're late for time anyway. But yeah, the very sweet sound of the mridanga. So yeah, there's a pranam mantra that you chant before you start playing the mridanga, and it describes the you know, the sweet sounds of the mridanga, and it's just so true. I mean, I know people who, you know, even people who have no real experience of devotional service, when they hear the mridanga, you know, it makes them feel very happy. I remember my late father. He's passed on about 7 years ago, but about, what year was it, in 2007 he saw Bhaktivedanta Manna, and afterwards the only thing he said to me is that he really liked the drum. He really liked the mridanga. So you know, even someone who doesn't have so much experience, still the mridanga sounds very, very sweet, and it's such a potent sound as well. When my daughter was when I was pregnant with my daughter Naika, she's now nearly 13, but when I was pregnant with her, and whenever I'd walk into a room where there was kirtan, or as soon as you heard the mridanga, I could hear the mridanga, then she would start to move, and you could feel that she was you know, feeling the beat of the mridanga. So Jai Shri Mridanga Jai. So hopefully we can also have that same mood, that always look for an opportunity to hear that sweet sound of the mridanga, and to hear the chanting. You know, it makes, you know, to have our heart dance in ecstasy like that. Then in verse 5, Bhaktivinoda Thakur talks about the bliss that he feels upon seeing the deities, the forms of Shri Radha and Krishna. And sorry, it's here. Oh yes, and then he goes on to say, Prasada seva korite hoya sakala prapancha joya. So he says that when I honor the prasad, the Lord's remnants of food, all of my material desires are conquered. Sometimes it's like that when you have when you take prasad, and sometimes it just, doesn't it? All my material desires are conquered. We're so fortunate. I've thought this for years and years, that I've always thought we're so fortunate to have this prasad, that you know, even like so-called, you know, royalty and like the material world, you know, the kings and the queens don't even get to have, you know, this prasad, like you know, we're fortunate enough to be able to have it. Yeah, we're very, very lucky. Oh, I've put a note here to read something from Antya Leela, and I've forgotten what it is. Antya Leela 16. Oh, it's okay. Anyway, so where are we? Verse 5, verse 6. Again, it was translated slightly differently in here, so I'll tell you how it's translated in this book. It's verse 6, Bhaktivinoda Thakura sings, whenever there is a performance of chanting the holy name of the Lord in my house, the whole atmosphere appears to be just like Goloka. I feel unlimited happiness when I see the Ganges, which has emanated from the Lord's lotus feet. So yeah, again, another practical example for us that, you know, we can hold kirtan in our homes, and we can experience like the change in atmosphere. Like we try to do, we've been doing some study sanghas at our home for a number of years, about 6 or 7 years, and usually on a Sunday. And when the devotees come here on a Sunday and we all have kirtan all together in front of our deities, Shishi Nitai Chand and Sachinandan Gaura Hari, I always feel that it's really their favorite day, you know, when all the devotees come and we all chant here, and you really do feel the atmosphere transform, and it's wonderful. So, you know, again, that's something that we can apply in our own life. And then, so, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur was mentioning the Ganges here because, you know, he's fortunate enough to live on the bank of the Ganga, but as we can see, him being such a Suddha Bhakata himself, that he's everything to him, everything is always connected with Krishna. So when he sees the Ganga, he remembers that that's come from the lotus feet of the Lord. Helping to remember. Verse 7, he sings, when I see Tulsi, I feel great satisfaction because I know that she is extremely dear to Krishna. When I eat shak, which is a favorite food of Lord Gauranga, I consider my life to be successful. Wonderful. So yeah, it's just wonderful. Prasada Shaka Sevane, he's like a seva. When I do the seva of taking the shak. So again, it's just such a wonderful attitude. You know, just to see everything in connection with the Lord, then you know, because he feels that's Mahaprabhu's one of his favorite foods, then when he eats that, his life is successful. So it's so nice. I heard recently, I was listening to one of the class recently of our Guru Maharaj Bhaktivinoda Tripurari Swami, and he was talking about the mood of a devotee when they offer bhoga, you know, on the altar, when they're offering their food to the Lord, and how he was saying, like, a real devotee, when they offer, they feel they like pray to Krishna that you know, like, unless you accept this, then like there's just no point for me to go on. Like, what's the point? There's no use in my life, because they see the Lord as, you know, everything, and that if you don't accept this, you know, I only maintain my body, I only take prasad, I won't take things that are not offered. So if you don't accept this, and if it's not going to be prasad, how am I going to be able to go on? And this is how our Guru Maharaj was speaking. I was thinking about that afterwards, that, you know, trying to meditate like that when we do offer things, because yeah, we're so fortunate to be able to honor prasad and to see it as a seva. Anyway, sorry, right, last verse, because it's course 2. I've gone on a bit. So what does he say in this verse? Whatever Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur daily receives as favorable for his devotional service to Krishna, he accepts with great happiness. So I just love the mood that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has when he sings. It seems so you know, he's such a great example of, in the Nectar of Instruction in Upadeshamrita, there's the verse about, you know, the qualities that are favorable for pure devotional service. That starts with utsaha, you know, enthusiasm, confidence, patience, these qualities. And when you hear these songs of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, you really feel that he's really full of these qualities. You know, he has so much enthusiasm and so much you know, confidence, and he's saying that, you know, daily, whatever he receives for his devotional service to Krishna, he just feels the greatest happiness by these things. And you know, that's really maintaining him and nourishing him, and he's such a good example for us, you know. So yeah, that was a few things that I was going to say, but I'm so sorry because I really have gone over time. But I will just see this message in the chat. So Shraddha Devi, she says, thank you for also covering all of the principles of surrender, as well as parts of the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita and Bhagavatam, which express the mood of the song. About the other songs after this one, hankering for divine worship, etc., are these feelings something that naturally happens to a bhakta after singing the songs? Do the songs nurture these feelings? It also seems that singing the verse in the song about the heart dancing in ecstasy will eventually encourage just that for Gaurachandra. So beautiful and nourishing. Jai Radhe. And then there's just a little bit about Sudama Brahman. I heard Krishna said somewhere that his guru is Radharani, so maybe she is our ultimate guru as well. Yeah. So is that a question about that? Is it something that songs nurture these feelings? Yeah, I would think so. As I say, I'm not so familiar with this book. I've really just recently started kind of familiarizing myself with it. But I would think, you know, especially after going through all of these songs in this book, all of the you know, all the different sections of surrender, and then I would just feel that probably by the time you get to this this section, what's it called, the hankering, sorry, I can't find the beginning of it. Hankering, yeah, bhajana lalasa, hankering for transcendental service. Yeah, I would imagine that someone would feel so much more from it. There was yeah, actually songs such as was Gurudev in this? Yes, so both, wonderful. So actually both Ohe Vaishnav Thakur and also Gurudev, the Gurudev Kripa Bindidiya, both of those songs are in this section of hankering for transcendental service, you know, praying to the Vaishnav Thakurs and the Gurudev. So but yeah, sorry, I'm conscious that I really have gone over, so I'm sorry about that. So I'll probably wrap up, but I don't know if anybody would like to say anything. Sorry, I see there's a message here in the group from Madhu Mangal Radha Krishna Prabhu asking, is our study group online? And I'm sorry, it's not actually. It's just, we just do it in Brighton for sort of local devotees who, we have like a public namaha on a Friday, and then if people are a little bit more serious about wanting to study the philosophy in the books, then we've been doing these study groups for some years now. We're coming now to near the end of the study of the Shikshashtakam, and we sort of alternate with my husband and I. 1 week he facilitates Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and then I do Shikshashtakam, like that. So we kind of take it in turns. But maybe one day we can have more some more study online, but thanks for asking. But yeah, Shraddha Devi, I don't know, did you want to say anything else about your message? Stop. All right. Hari-Bol. Oh, I can't hear you. Why can't I hear you? Do I need to put
Okay. I know it's short for time, but thank you anyway, those feelings. Can you hear me? I don't know if you can hear me.
I heard a little bit of that at the end, but
Okay.
I couldn't hear the first part.
No, it's okay. It's just
Oh.
repeating that singing songs about certain feelings will actually encourage those very feelings. It just happens, doesn't it? And if you encourage it by singing, yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, I feel a little bit disorganized today in this talk, and I'm sorry about that. I forgot the cartels at the beginning, and I had to run off and get that. But anyway, I guess some days it's just like that. But yeah, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you both being here, and yeah, hopefully we can explore some more songs of Bhaktivinoda in the future. And as like I say, it was many years ago that I got this book, and it's only recently that I've actually started like looking into it. But I think it would be very helpful. So yeah, maybe in future, maybe we can look at the different limbs and other songs that correspond with that. Yeah, we'll do that. But yes, I will end for now. Thank you so much. Shri Gaudiya Vaishnav Guru Parampara ki jai, Shri Gurudev ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Please accept my humble obeisances. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai.
Mohini dasi ki jai. Mohini dasi ki jai.